Hi, my name is Lisa A. Romano, and I am the author of The Road Back to Me, My Road Beyond the Codependent Divorce, Loving the Self-Affirmations, and I have a fourth book that's in publication, well, getting published right now. It's Quantum Tools to help you move beyond your past. And what I do is I outline how we, adult children of alcoholics, and quite frankly, any adult child from any dysfunctional family, can use the principles of the law of attraction to help move beyond where we are today. So if you're in pain and you keep attracting the same types of relationships or situations into your experience, by understanding how the law of attraction works and the law of cause and effect works, by understanding that, you're able to cognitively, unemotionally, in a detached sense, make sense out of why you keep doing what you don't want to do. And I'm hoping that it's received well, and you get a lot out of it. So far, from the people that I've allowed to read it thus far, it's been received very well. So I'm looking forward to getting that out to all of you who follow me, my faithful readers and followers of my website and my videos. So I do this for you. But today what we're going to talk about is how we adult children from dysfunctional homes are basically holograms. What do I mean by holograms? What I mean is, if you think about a hologram, what a hologram is it's a certain pattern. And what it does is the pattern just keeps repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating. But the hologram doesn't know it's a hologram. And the hologram is sort of like, well, I use the idea of the hologram to help my clients understand that until they recognize their hologram, until they recognize their pattern, they can't change it. So where does the hologram come from? The hologram comes from what we were conditioned to believe when we were really young, and we were aware that we knew nothing. What I mean by that is, when you're one, like, you're learning. You know nothing. You know that mommy and daddy are the big people in the life, and grandma and grandpa are big people, and if you have uncles and aunts around you, you would just assume that all of these people around you, because they're so big, know better than you do. And so you come into this time-space reality called Earth knowing you know nothing. And so what you do is you begin to pick up on the behaviors and the ideas and the opinions and the beliefs of the people around you. But what happens when the people around you are messed up? Unfortunately, their pattern becomes your pattern. Why? Because your brain, up until the age of 12 or 13, probably even a little bit sooner than that, understands that it's learning. And so learn it does. And if you learn to abuse people because you've been abused, or you've watched dad abuse mom, or you've watched dad get drunk and you've watched mom enable, or you've watched people treat each other poorly in your family dynamics, if you've been ignored, then that becomes part of your blueprint. And so let's just take that idea for a second. So if you've been ignored as a child and your needs go unmet because there's chaos around you, dad's drunk, mom's drunk, or mom's on anti-anxiety medication, or she's depressed and she can't get out of bed, or let's say that there's issues with, the siblings in the family, or dad's having affairs and mom's depressed because dad's having affairs, or what have you. Whenever there is chaos in the family and the children are being neglected, what happens is the children don't learn to connect to self. They don't even know that they have a self. That was the parents' job. That was the adult's job in the family. It was the adult's job in the family to say to little Johnny and little Mary, you're a good little girl and you're a good little boy. And what kinds of things do you like to do? Oh, you like to draw? Let's draw this. Let's draw that. Let's take an art class. And it was mommy and daddy's job, or the authorities in our lives, to help us cultivate self. But when you've got people, adults in your life, that are just chaotic and dysfunctional and lost within their own self-absorbed mind because they don't know any better, because they have dysfunctional patterns that they're living out, you have no shot. You have no shot. It's not your fault, but you have no shot of being nurtured. You don't even know you have a self. You just keep looking out into your environment and learning. And so as you're learning, all these tracks are getting laid down in your head, in your belief systems, and they become the basis of the rest of your life. What I mean by that is, if you've grown up and you've watched your dad, for instance, get loaded, get drunk, get high, and there's no money, and there's no set dinner time, and clothes aren't clean, and you don't know where your next meal is coming from, or you don't know if you're going to be able to go to that high school anymore because you move so often, or whatever. If that's what's going on, you have this sense of dysfunction. And what happens is all of that chaos and that inability to feel safe, it becomes part of your blueprint. It becomes part of your hologram. And unless that's rectified later on in life, you now, about 12, 13, 14, think you know everything. Don't all adolescents think they know everything? But unfortunately, what they know is dysfunctional. So if there's a distrust for mom and dad, then the adolescent moves out into the world and has a distrust for people, and distrusts self, because the child was never taught that he or she had a self. What's a self? We're just acting out. We're just reacting. We have an emotion and we react to it. We see something in our environment and we react to it. We get angered and we react to it. And we become these reactive individuals because we have no connection to self or boundaries, or in the idea that we can actually contemplate, why am I getting angry? Should I be angry about that? Is that person important to me? Are they important enough for me to get upset over that? Can I really do anything about how that person feels? Should I care how that person feels about me? We're not taught those types of coping skills. We know nothing about thinking about how we feel. We just react because that's our blueprint. That's our hologram. So as a life coach, what I've noticed is generally about between the ages of 36 and 45, or 35 and 45, generally speaking, there's this tremendous awakening that happens in people, or awakening, or if you will, that their lives become so painful that they seek outside of themselves for help finally. And at that point, when someone comes to me, whether it's a reader who's read my book and contacts me at Lisa A. Romano at Gmail, or writes to me on Amazon, or finds another way to get in touch with me, perhaps through my website, and then I begin coaching that person. Usually, generally, they're between the ages of 35 and 45, and sometimes a little bit right below 50. For whatever reason, I presume that that's because life has gotten so painful. It's so many bad things have happened up until that point. Like, we've attracted so many different situations, whether they be marriages and relationships, and poor career choices, or extremely obese or bulimic, or we're not happy in relationships, and the pain is just at a point where we just can't take it anymore. So we finally reach out for help, and that's not a bad thing generally. Until we wake up, pain is our greatest motivator. And then once we wake up and we begin to involve cognition, and we begin to learn how to think through what's happening and detach from our emotions, once that begins to happen, then we no longer have to evolve at the hands of pain. We're able to evolve cognitively, and on purpose, if you will, through our thoughts, not through so much pain, which is really, really exciting. So the whole purpose of this video today is to help people understand that all of us are just holograms until we wake up. Until we understand that we do what we do because we've been programmed to think and behave a certain way. Until we understand that all of the things that we're attracting into our environment that do not serve us are the result of unconscious thoughts and unconscious belief systems that were programmed into us when we were just babies and children. Until we understand that everything that's happened, that we've attracted so far, is truly the result of a hologram, then we can't really change. But once we begin to say, wait a minute, I understand that I do that because of my relationship that I have with my mom, or I attract narcissistic women into my life because my mother was a narcissist. I think I have to chase love because my mother never gave me love. It was a conditional love. There are always conditions on love. So that's my idea of love. So of course, that's what I'm tuned up for in my environment, and that's what I attract. Your emotional standpoint, your emotional set point is your attracting point. So if you don't love self, the only thing that's going to show up are relationships that help prove or make you feel unloved. So you won't attract people who can love you. You'll attract people who are unable to love you. You'll attract takers. If you're a sensitive being, you'll attract someone who's insensitive and will just mirror back to you that which you feel about self. The environment that you're living is a mirror to what's going on inside of you. But the thing is, though, if you don't know that everything that's happening in your environment is the result of the hologram, which is your unconscious belief system, creating all of this chaos in your life. If you don't know that, you can't change it. And so I believe that's what biblically, when the Bible talks about man being reborn again, I believe it's man being reborn in his own mind, in resurrecting the image of himself within the chambers of his mind. I think that's what being born again really means, like dying to the old, what's the old? The old hologram, the old programming, dying to it, thinking above it, seeing the hologram and understanding that was everything that happened back then was the result of being unconscious or unawakened or unenlightened. And knowing that once you become enlightened, you can change the patterns, you can change the hologram. This is a time-space reality. The world we live in, Earth, it's Einstein, relativity, it's the theory of relativity, time and space, it's a linear experience, therefore time is a factor. What does that mean? That means that change doesn't happen like that. It takes time to undo what has been done. It's a journey. But, if you never give up, if you never ever give up, if you dedicate to yourself, to self, and to learning as much as you can about self, and to changing the paradigm, to shifting the paradigm, to shifting the way you see self, then you can have the most amazing life experience. And I'm proof of that. My life was so terrible at one point, I really wanted to kill myself. And when I made a conscious decision to never kill myself because I didn't want to hurt the people in my life, and I didn't want to scar them. And I thought, what good is that? Because killing myself, it's just going to perpetuate this cycle. It doesn't help anything. But if I can stick to life and break the cycle, then my life would have meant something. And so I stuck to life, but really didn't figure out what my hologram was, what my pattern was. And then what began to happen is my body began to fail. I got asthma, migraine headaches, rashes they couldn't explain, panic attacks. I couldn't sleep. I was an insomniac. I was in and out of the emergency rooms because my heart was beating so rapidly, until I got to a point where I was convinced I was going to die from asthma. And then I thought, something has to change. And what happened was, one of my doctors said, you better listen to your body because your body's listening to you. And that was one of the first times where I was able to think outside my hologram, because the idea that I could think about the way that I think just shook me. It kind of stung a hole inside my very limited idea of self. And it was almost like a window, like fresh air came through my brain. I was like, I can think about the way that I think. It was fabulous. And that was the beginning of my awakening. And I'm still awakening. I'm still growing and sharing with you as I go. And I'm never going to stop. This is my mission in life, is to bring this, whatever I've learned, to you in the unique way that I express it. Because I think that we need to understand the science of the mind as well as the emotions of the mind, and be able to wrap it all up in a pretty bow called the spirit. I believe that spirit talks to us through our emotions. But when you're the adult child of an alcoholic, you've been taught to deny your emotions. You've been taught that your emotions don't count. So I hope this has helped you understand a little bit more about why you are the way you are, and why it's so important to break those holograms, break those patterns. You can reach me at lisaaRomano@gmail.com.